Hi there. Huge news just leaked out for House of the Dragon Season 2 from what I consider reliable sources, linking specific episode numbers to the scenes that we are seeing being filmed in the streets of Caceres today, in Spain. That they've identified which directors are filming these and which episodes they're in. It isn't quite a full season schedule, but it's enough to give us a, I would say, worrying picture of what they're doing, that I thought this should happen by the end of the season. It now looks like the Battle of Rook's Rest is happening mid-season. On an 8-episode, not 10-episode thing, I don't know how they're going to do that. Let me back up. Like I said, this is part 2 of my 2-part report on the spy news from today. The first part was just on photos we got. That's pretty straightforward. Nonetheless, I consider this leak very reliable because it's from people who made reliable leaks about Season 1. Specific news channels. Giving them a shout out here, it's Realm of Dragons, formerly House of the Dragon Greek because she's from Greece, and House of the Dragon Croatia. They're these two big channels on Twitter and Instagram. They're part of the new generation of fandom that sprouted up for the prequels for House of the Dragon, not from the Game of Thrones days. This is the torch has passed to new people. And some of this is corroborated by other people who do spy photos and stuff like House of the Dragons, which is a Brazilian fan channel I get a lot of stuff from. But the Greek channel and the Croatia channel, among others, had pretty big leaks for Season 1 with a specific source they cultivated on set. That source is not back for Season 2. I think they got in trouble for that. But they know how to contact the type of people who work on set, and they found a new source, basically. So they just said, we know this from reliable people who are working in production on the ground. You can debate whether a crew member on the ground would have a full knowledge of what the season schedule is or not, but they try to cross-reference this with other things. And the other thing was they contacted me and said, on your day one reporting for this, you didn't credit us that we posted some of these photos. I'm sorry about that for Realm of Dragons, Greek, and Croatia. And I explained to them, and they said, oh, okay, I understand. I am really terrified of getting a copyright strike from HBO for posting spy photos or leaks. And I think it's harder for them to do that if it's purely verbal. But I didn't want them to get in trouble either, so I didn't want to, heavily promote that, hey, there's this amazing channel who has these huge leaks, and mention them by name so they'd get in trouble. I was trying to protect them, that's why I didn't mention it. But they said, can you mention our name anyway? So, okay. I mean, think about it. They're probably more prominent for the viral Twitter thread that spread this more prominently than my little YouTube channel here ever could. That, YouTube does seem bigger for us who are on YouTube, but thousands of people have already seen this on Twitter, so if they were going to get in trouble, they already would have already, or they're open to it. And they said, no, we want to be credited for this. But I am paranoid about getting copyright strikes, that's why I didn't mention them before. But having established all of that, they said we cross-referenced, we looked at everything, and point one here, I said there's two big processions through the streets of Caceres. One we've established is the funeral procession for young Jaehaerys. I mean, there's labels on it that say JAH funeral procession on it. And the other one is that in retaliation for that, they have the Battle of Rook's Rest. At the Battle of Rook's Rest, the dragon Meleys is killed. And then there's a second procession where they parade her head through the city on a cart to show, look, we killed the enemy's dragon. One of the big ones. So these two processions, we're trying to figure out who's filming them, and at what time they're happening. Realm of Dragons and House of the Dragon Croatia figured out through cross-referencing and production crew leaks that the Jaehaerys funeral procession will be directed by Gita Patel. That isn't too big of a surprise because we saw her cinematographer, Catherine Goldschmidt, extensively going around site scouting in the streets of Caceres a few weeks ago. So we figured one or the other of these two big things Gita Patel must be filming. The bigger news is that they said that the Jaehaerys funeral procession, directed by Gita Patel, is in episode 3 out of 8. So whereas I was discussing, for all we know that's happening mid-season or something, they're delaying it, it now looks like Blood and Cheese is happening in episode 2. from all accounts from this, and I consider these reliable sources that they have cultivated, that they know how to contact people in ways I don't, and cross-referencing this with other things we've all heard as a group, Blood and Cheese seems to be episode 2. Because the funeral is in episode 3, but they went on to describe the other stuff, that the Meleys, I wouldn't say funeral, parading her head around, is directed by Claire Kilner, and it's in episode 5 out of 8. Which means that the Battle of Rook's Rest is in episode 4 out of 8. It is the mid-season cliffhanger. This is the halfway point of the season that shifts the game. Which seems unusually fast to me, that you could have done this in episode 7. Like I said, I think that what they presented to the HBO executives as season 2, 10 episodes, they could never have done it in that few. They must have expanded it to 16 episodes, split it into 2 blocks of 8 that they call season 2 and season 3. Makes sense that Rook's Rest would be the finale of season 2. I still think that they have expanded it. They haven't reduced the episode count. But that still doesn't rule out that they're shifting events around a little. That this could be a bit... And yeah, you go, well, how else would we stretch out the rest of the season? It isn't even like... Maybe the Battle of the Lakeshore, the largest land battle of the entire war between the Stark and Lannister armies in the Riverlands. Maybe that's the season 2 finale. We're not really sure, because what else could it be? King's Landing being taken isn't a battle scene, and they said there was a huge battle we moved to season 3, which our spies said that was the Battle of the Gullet. I used to say that assuredly they split the season in half, and Battle of the Gullet is now the end of season 3. I'm not so sure anymore. They might be doing something weird. And there's ways you could do it, but it's... The Battle of the Gullet motivates the capture of King's Landing. And there's ways they could do this well. There's a lot of ways they could do it wrong. I'm not really sure what's happening. But in terms of directors, this ties into another thing that just recently happened. Claire Kilner was giving an interview with Collider, and she listed off that, yes, there will be 5 directors this season, and that she admitted she is doing episodes 2 and 5. So it appears Claire Kilner is doing Blood and Cheese, and this giant parade of Meleys, like a Roman triumph, showing her defeated, severed head there. Kind of makes sense, because Claire Kilner is both known for her intimate scenes, like the really well-done love scenes in episode 4 of season 1. And if you think about it, she's really the only director in season 1 who did Streets of King's Landing scenes. That was like episode 4 when Rhaenyra sneaks out, and then episode 8 when they're looking for Aegon. I'm sorry, episode 9 when they were looking for Aegon. That's both on Claire Kilner. She's the only one who's really shown what's King's Landing like outside of the Red Keep itself. But Geeta Patel will be doing the funeral procession, so that's more of a somber affair than this, I guess. This will be like cheering crowds and stuff. So she is doing episodes 2 and 5. And one other leak we got, this is the third and final piece of leak info that Realm of Dragons and House of the Dragon Croatia got, is that newcomer Andriy Perek will be directing episode 6. The one after the Meleys head thing, and we have no idea as to its contents, other than that he's doing episode 6. Now they said she said 5 directors that confirmed that we already knew it was probably Claire Kilner, Geeta Patel, Miguel Sapochnik's not coming back, but in his place is coming Alan Taylor. Andriy Perek joined, he did Emmy-level work on Succession. We think the 5th one is Lonnie Perister, who was a collaborator with Greg Yaitanes on a lot of things. He is listed as a producer on season 2, so he's probably director. That's what's going on with the director's schedule. So the loose season outline half outline we have so far looks something like this. This is the first semi-outline of season 2. We'll be refining this as we go in coming weeks, you understand. Episode 1, director unknown, reintroduce all the pieces, maybe Daemon taking Harrenhal. Episode 2, directed by Claire Kilner, Blood and Cheese, among other things. Episode 3, Geeta Patel, directing Jaehaerys' funeral procession. Episode 4, director unknown, but it's probably the Battle of Rook's Rest. Mid-season and this is very early. Episode 5, Claire Kilner dealing with the aftermath of Rook's Rest, the parade of Maelysa's head through the city. And the Blacks back on Dragonstone freaking out over this. Episode 6, director Andrzej Perek, contents unknown. Episode 7 and 8, completely unknown. Somewhere in all of this, they have to fit in the Riverlands storyline, which they'd introduce because it links with Daemon. That when Daemon takes Harrenhal, they'll introduce the pieces moving there. Fit in Jace meeting the Arryns and the Starks at the Eyrie and the Winterfell. And they said Daeron's Reach campaign, fighting his way up from Old Town up to Tumbleton, that'll be in Season 2, they said, in the Battle of the Honeywine. Well, they only said Daeron is in Season 2. But it'll be there somewhere, like fighting the Caswells. They bothered to set up the Caswells. So, another possibility is maybe the season is front-heavy, because they didn't want to lose momentum on the audiences invested in Rhaenyra's story. But, like, maybe they moved things around out of chronological order, that, like, maybe Episode 6 is the Battle of the Honeywine? Maybe? Or Battle by the Lakeshore chronologically happens at an entirely different point, but maybe you could use that as Episode 8, or even Episode 7, because it's a different theater of the war, it's not as interrelated, that different things happening in different parts of the continent, you can, well, with Game of Thrones this was easy, when they had, like, Daenerys or things at the Wall, wouldn't happen in the order the books showed them, but it didn't really matter because they were in a different part of the continent. This is big news. Please follow Realm of Dragons and House of the Dragon Croatia. We don't know what's going on with what they're scheduling for the story now. It isn't necessarily bad, but it is concerning. I am going to make a separate videos entirely dedicated to how could they do this in 8 episodes of 4 seasons, and what storylines could be in it or not. What are they doing here? We're not really sure, but this is giving us a clearer picture of the pace that Season 2 is going at. Unless Episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8 are, okay, that's the Rhaenyra story, now let's focus on the Reach and the Riverlands. Possible. We're not really sure what they're doing, so a lot of news just came out. This is huge news. This is one of those videos that I hope would get 100,000 views. This isn't just, oh, here's a spy photo, but director schedule leaked out with story schedule. This is huge news. So please like and subscribe. I will update this as we learn more.